All right, guys. Well, welcome to the Four Bros podcast. This is episode 3. We're really excited you're here this week. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing great. March Madness is raging in the other room.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Wanted to get these two awesome guys with Rob and me, the Four Bros. Today, we're going to talk about NFL free agency. We're coming up only a couple weeks out now from the NFL draft, and we wanted to really talk about some of the high impact NFL free agency moves that have happened. There have been a lot of them, more than usual. At almost every position, there's been big time movement. And so we're going to talk about each of those moves and really find out what you guys think about each of those and how they're going to impact their teams.
Is the only reason you think that there was an increase this year was they added $30 million to the salary cap?
That's part of it. And also teams are very desperate to win now. I think that teams are less and less patient. You can see you've got a lot of coaches that only last 1 or 2 years anymore. You don't even have 3 years anymore to win. So I think teams are willing to make big swings and pay these guys big dollars, often overpaying them, by the way.
You know what else is a factor, I would imagine? That college football is getting so crazy that college coaches are leaving college. They're going to start taking up the NFL ranks. It's going to be even more competitive.
It's true. Very true.
So coaches don't have lots of time to get it right.
And not only do you have to win now, but then with a quarterback, they're giving even less leash. So like the Jordan Love situation where they let him sit for 3 years and start in year 4, I don't see that happening again. I think teams are going to start. If they don't start him in year 1, they're going to start him in year 2. And they're making quick decisions. Often by Thanksgiving of year 2, they know whether they have their guy or not. And if they don't, they're going to ship him off like they did with Justin Fields. So it's unfortunate, but quarterbacks have a very short leash in this league. And pretty soon within 2 or 3 years, they're known whether they're going to be a starter or a backup. So you guys ready to take a look at all the free agent moves and acquisitions? And I want to get you guys comment here. You ready?
Let's
all right,
try.
let's do it.
A life for a YouTuber.
Let's
You
go.
guys are YouTubers, and you guys rock.
Yeah.
I love it.
No viewers
All right.
rock.
All right, so Brock, Connor, what do you guys think about this? These are the free agent quarterbacks that move teams. The top one of all, of course, is Kirk Cousins. He signed with the Atlanta Falcons. He was an unrestricted free agent. He signed for 4 years for $180 million. He is coming off an Achilles injury and surgery, so there is some concern there that he'll truly be ready for training camp. But the Falcons really believe they're in a weak division in the NFC South. And if they just added a premier or at least, playoff level quarterback, that they were there and they could win the division. So what do you guys think about this? You think Kirk Cousins is going to be good with the Falcons?
Yeah, I think he might be good.
Yeah.
Brock, what do you think about Kirk Cousins?
How do you think he can do?
Well, if he has an injury, probably bad and good. Yeah, it just depends.
Yeah.
So you're worried about his injury, Brock and Connor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Atlanta is such a great organization. They don't make the best decisions with personnel. But, I mean, it's not a bad move. It's just expensive,
Well, they had 2 years of Desmond Ridder, and they knew that he wasn't the guy, right? So you got to do something. So you're going to have to either draft somebody, or you're going to have to sign somebody.
I think $45 million for Kirk Cousins is a little on the rich side. I don't know, just performance-wise. He's a good quarterback, but he's not great. And I'd rather sign Baker Mayfield, who's making $33 million a year and doing better than Cousins.
They couldn't because the Bucs had already re-signed him. So
no, I know, but I'm saying that's a better deal for the team.
No, agreed. I think Kirk Cousins. It was worth rolling the dice. This way, they can preserve their number 1 and number 2 picks in the draft and load up on edge rushers and offensive line. It was worth taking a shot here. He's got a pretty good record. They think they can win 10 or 11 games with him, and that's really all you need to win that division. So
they have done a nice job of putting weapons around him. So he's got an opportunity. He's got a chance of being successful.
For sure. We mentioned Baker Mayfield. He signed back with the Bucks again for 3 years for $100 million. As you said, that's a pretty good value. He played pretty well. He took them to the playoffs, surprisingly. So, what do you guys think? You think Baker will be able to maintain his performance?
I think probably, yeah, I think
That's a bad division, so why not? You know, you'll do okay.
yeah.
You know
Okay.
what's interesting to me is Sam Darnold, because I heard somebody talking about the other day. He came out of college at 20.
Mm-hmm.
He's only 26. He's the age that Brady was when he won his first Super Bowl. It's almost like his career is really just starting, and everyone thinks he's washed up.
Right.
So I'm not sure he's going to be that much better than what we've seen, but there's a chance he improves. So I think that I think a $10 million salary is worth a shot.
No, I
Yeah.
completely agree. Yeah.
Right.
Plus, they were desperate. They got rid of all their quarterbacks, so they really had nobody left.
26-year-old quarterback who has a lot of experience now. I don't think he's not gonna be a top Pro Bowler, but he might turn into like a Baker Mayfield, a guy that might surprise some people.
He could. Interestingly enough, Josh Dobbs signed with the 49ers to back up Brock Purdy. So that was an interesting move. Also, you've got Ryan Tannehill still sitting out there unsigned.
Too expensive.
A couple of the big moves here, though, that were interesting. Of course, Russell Wilson signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers for $1.2 million. The reason
Incredible.
being that the
What a
Broncos
good value. Yeah.
are paying $85 million to him over the next 2 years. So basically got him for free and have already named him the starter, which is pretty surprising. And then they went out the next week and traded for Justin Fields. So Justin Fields is now not with Chicago and he's with the Steelers. He's going to back up Russell Wilson. And most people think that Russell Wilson's going to be on a short leash. So if he goes 3-5 or 3-6, he'll probably get the yank and they'll put in Justin Fields, who they look at as the future of that franchise.
I think it was smart getting both those guys. I think there's not going to be any pressure to pull Russell Wilson because they have a very good running game that was a little bit kind of stifled this year, but it has good potential. They're going to be able to run the ball, and I think that helps Russell Wilson quite a lot. And so,
but if he gets hurt, I mean, you got a guy who's ready to go. He's been started.
I would want Justin Fields as my backup on any team in the league.
No doubt. No doubt about it. What do you guys think? What do you think of the Steelers quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields? Do you think they're going to
Do
be
you think
pretty
it was
good?
a good pickup to get those guys?
Yeah, I think it was a good pickup.
Pretty nice when you only have to spend $1.2 million on Russell Wilson. You get basically a, edge Hall of Fame quarterback for nothing. So
yeah. And honestly, the rest of those quarterbacks, not that consequential,
And with Fields, they only gave up a fourth-round pick for him, so it was really a pretty
Most
good
of the
deal.
rest of those guys are just backups.
Yeah.
Even if they're starters, they're backups in a starting role.
Right.
So,
two of the late-breaking deals that happened was Garoppolo going to back up in Los Angeles with the Rams. That was an interesting deal. And then Joe Flacco, who played really well and took the Browns to the playoffs, is going to back up Anthony Richardson. I think they wanted a really competent backup there in case Richardson gets hurt again. He only played
how to not get hurt,
Exactly.
Richardson was taking too many shots last year. He was making a lot of good decisions, but he was taking hits, and that's why he's hurt for the most part.
That's right. All right, well, let's move on from the quarterbacks. Let's talk about the running backs. And you can see here the 4 major transactions on the running back side. The biggest one being Saquon Barkley. Everyone felt like he was going to leave New York. It was not a good marriage the last 2 years. He did have a lot of injury problems. They didn't win very much. Their quarterback situation's been bad. He went ahead and signed with a division rival, the Philadelphia Eagles, to replace Swift, who left for the Bears. And so Saquon Barkley there now, for the first time in his career, feels like he's with a contender, one of the better NFC teams. And what do you guys think? You think he's going to make an impact with the Eagles?
I think think so.
I don't know because that offensive line's getting older. It's had some retirements, and I don't I don't know. I think when I look at this list right here, the only one that jumps out at me is Derrick Henry, but the rest
Mhm.
are all really good running backs that are replacing really good running backs.
Mhm.
There's not a huge swing in
Well,
talent from
I think Saquon's a really good back, and they're a good team. I agree they're not as good as maybe 2 years ago, but they're a good team. Certainly,
they're
they're
not
better.
as good. Saquon's better than what they had, so it'll be somewhere around what we've seen, I think.
Right. Then you got Josh Jacobs signing with the Green Bay Packers. That's a
Right.
big deal because I think the
Yeah.
Packers are pretty close. They're pretty close. And then to sign him, they let Aaron Jones go, and he ended up signing with the Vikings. That was an
Yeah,
interesting
I think
move.
Aaron Jones is really good. So did they really upgrade a lot? Not a lot. I mean, a little bit maybe.
Yeah, true.
I mean, really, Aaron Jones leads the league in rushing. So,
And then you mentioned Derrick Henry. I think that is a high impact on a team that was very close last year. Basically, got to the AFC Championship game.
yeah,
Uh, and you added Derrick Henry to that mix. That's pretty good stuff. I mean,
that's a
I,
big upgrade.
I have to think they're going to lean a lot on him and try to take some pressure off of Jackson, the quarterback.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think they need to have Jackson unlearn some bad habits and
mhm,
learn, how to play quarterback and not quarterback slash running back
mhm.
to prolong his career and to help his team win in the playoffs.
And Tony Pollard, I mean, don't sleep on the Titans. I mean, they've added DeAndre Hopkins. They added Calvin Ridley. Now they got Tony Pollard. They've got, of course, the young rookie quarterback who's going to be his second year, Will Levis. I don't
Mhm.
know. They seem to be building something there. We'll see.
And I know that in Washington they're excited about Ekeler.
No question. Eckler, that was a great deal.
So
You're talking
that was a
about
good
just
deal.
about $6 million a year.
But for the
He's a
most part, I see a lot of good running backs on here. Most of them are going to a team where they had a pretty good running back last year, so
mhm.
it's not that big of a
And
fit.
DeAndre Swift to the Bears is kind of interesting because they've really loaded up on weapons for their future first round pick.
Yeah.
I think the Bears have gotten a lot better on offense. So we'll see.
Mhm.
Any other comments, guys, on any of these running backs? Which ones do you think are going to make a big impact?
You guys think Derrick Henry is going to be really good this year for Baltimore?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna do good.
Okay.
Awesome. Well,
That's
that's the
great.
running back crew. And you can see Antonio Gibson moved, Dante Foreman going with the Browns to back up their major duo they have there. So they have like a three-headed monster in Cleveland now.
Mhm.
So
All right.
I
What's
noticed
next?
I noticed Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not taken yet. I wonder if he's going to get picked up by somebody. We'll see.
Well, he's been kind of downtrending,
Yeah.
and Pacheco took his starting job, so I'm sure he wants money, and no one wants to give him big contracts. So I'm sure
Right.
that's a problem.
Right, exactly. And Dobbins got let go by Baltimore. He was their main back there, but of course
Hmm.
they've just solved that issue with Derrick Henry. So, all right, let's take a look at wide receiver. These are the big transactions on the wide receiver side, guys. First one's Calvin Ridley. Nobody can figure out where this contract came from. 4 years, 92 million. He's essentially the third highest paid wide receiver in the league, and he's probably the, I don't know, maybe 15th best talent.
It's kind of
He's
a
a
desperate
he's a
move.
good receiver. He's kind of like an edge number one receiver, maybe a number two. And the Titans just gave him the whole bank. So I don't know. He's going to be on the other side from DeAndre Hopkins. They do have some good receivers for Will Levis now. We'll see how he plays. What do you guys
Hmm.
think about that big contract, though? You think that made any sense?
I don't think so. I think he
Yeah,
got overpaid.
I don't think it makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, he's going to have a lot of pressure on him now to really deliver because he's getting that much money. We'll see how he does there. The other big free agent signing, although it was only 1 year for $7 million, was Marquise Brown. He brings an element to the Chiefs that they haven't had since Tyreek Hill, really 3 years. He's a speedster. He runs a 4.340 and he stretches the field.
Yeah.
And he's going to provide them a nice element on the other side from Rashid Rice, who's going to be in his second year. So I just have to think Kansas City wins the Super Bowl and then gets better the next year. So we'll see. But he's going to be an important one. And then Mike Williams, signs the 1-year deal with the Jets to play with Aaron Rodgers. So it'll be interesting to see if he's got anything left in the tank late in his career. And then you had Gabe Davis signed for 3 years for $39 million. He left the Buffalo Bills and went to the Jaguars.
Yeah, the Bills are in a big salary dump.
Right. So lots of big moves there. Darnell Mooney goes to the Falcons to play with Kirk Cousins. Mike Evans re-signed with the Bucs for another 2 years because he likes playing with Baker. And Michael Pittman's a really great receiver for the Colts. So any of these moves, guys, you think are going to have real high impact?
No, I think we're good.
I don't think a lot of these really tip the scales, you know. They're all nice little pieces, but none of them are. It's not like Derrick Henry going to the Ravens, you know. It doesn't change the dynamic of the team.
I would agree with that. I think the one that I would point to the most is Marquise Brown. If he can play the way he did last year for the Cardinals,
You know what I would point to?
he became the deep threat for Kyler Murray, and if he becomes that deep threat for Mahomes,
You know what I think the most consequential signing was of all that list? Mike Evans back to the Bucs.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yep.
He could have really added some talent to a team that needed somebody.
No doubt. And Darnell Mooney is being talked about as one of the real high impact signings because apparently he's been really coming on the last 2 years, and Cousins is very excited to play with him. So it'll be interesting to see. They've got a lot of weapons down in Atlanta. They're going to light it up. Curtis Samuel left Washington and went to the Buffalo Bills. That's an interesting move. He's got a lot of speed.
It's a nice piece, but it's not going to change much in the way of their fortunes.
He spends a lot of his time in motion, so I wonder if the Bills will keep him in motion. So
maybe.
Michael Thomas is still available. Saints finally gave up on him. I guess he had just missed too many games.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Those are the wide receivers. Let's look at the tight ends. The biggest transaction of all was Dalton Schultz, who helped C.J. Stroud last year and the Houston Texans go on a huge run in the playoffs, all the way to the playoffs and in the playoffs. And he signed a 3-year, $36 million deal. He's a huge part of their offense. He probably was their best receiver last year. And they re-signed him and retained him as CJ's favorite target.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about Dalton Schultz re-signing?
I mean, it was a smart move on their part. You know, I heard a stat recently that out of the last 15 years, every Super Bowl winner had an outstanding tight end.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that, of course, was the Patriots had one and sometimes two. But it's pretty significant. And they didn't always have a star wide receiver, every Super Bowl winner. So in some ways, you could put more emphasis on having a star tight end if you want to go all the way, because he bails out the quarterback so much, you know?
Well, speaking of the New England Patriots, I completely agree with you. They re-signed their stud tight end, Hunter Henry, 3 years, $27 million. And then they also signed Austin Hooper. So they are trying to go back to their old days of running 2 tight end sets. It's really interesting. You don't know which one to cover. Austin Hooper's a pretty good player.
They're both good, but they're not great weapons. So I think that's going to take time.
Yeah.
They're good players, but.
And then you got Noah Fant.
I'm very excited about Jonnu Smith going from the Falcons to the Dolphins.
I saw that. I mentioned that down at the bottom there. He's going to be there.
It's only $5 million a year for 2 years. It's a nice little contract. It's not a deal breaker.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
and it gives Tua that outlet that he desperately needed.
He didn't really have much of a tight end last year. He had a lot of weapons, but not much of a tight end. And so that'll be really great for him. You saw Gesicki sign with the Bengals. Gerald Everett signed with Chicago and becomes one of the 4 pieces they brought in the offseason for the offense. So it's really interesting. They're going to have 2 great receivers. They're going to have DeAndre Swift in the backfield. They're going to have Gerald Everett, who's a proven pass-catching tight end. So I like what the Bears have done in this offseason. I think they've had one of the biggest impacts.
I don't. Sure. I think they should have built around Justin Fields instead of burning.
I agree with that. I agree with
They
that.
got
What I'm
almost
saying,
nothing for Justin Fields. So
I agree. I agree. What I'm saying though is that no matter who they have a quarterback, they've added a lot of nice pieces on offense. That's what I meant.
to me, if you add a rookie quarterback and you don't address the offensive line, it doesn't matter what your wide receivers are. I mean,
Hmm.
they're almost irrelevant. So while I do like all those pieces,
Hmm.
if you put them on a team with a young quarterback who had a nice offensive line, you could do something. But I think they haven't addressed the most important position outside of quarterback, and that's offensive line. And they're hoping that wide receivers will get open faster than those people can get in and hit Caleb Williams, I guess. But it's not a great strategy, I think. It
Very
doesn't
true.
fully address the problem.
Very
But yeah,
true.
I think the skill positions are nice players, but they got to do something about that offensive line.
But you have to say that every NFL team would love to have some of these premier tight ends, and
Yeah,
not everybody has
oh,
one. So,
no question.
yeah.
It's you desperately need one if you're gonna go to the Super Bowl.
Hmm. All right, let's go down to offensive tackles. Two big ones to mention here. Tyron Smith, probably the best tackle in football,
Mhm.
leaves the Cowboys and goes to the New York Jets for 1 year. What do you guys think about that big move for the Jets?
I think it was a pretty good move.
Yeah, it's huge. The problem with him, of course, is he gets injured.
Hmm.
But man, some of these players, if they don't get injured and they're able to hang in there, he's gonna be a big addition for Aaron Rodgers.
Hmm. No doubt about it. Other moves here. Trent Brown with the Bengals. Jonah Williams, who you see pictured there, signed with the Arizona Cardinals for 2 years, $30 million. He's a really solid tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Some other ones here: Josh Jones with the Ravens, Fant with Seattle, and the Panthers continue. They signed the two guards, and then they also signed this tackle Nijman, who apparently is really coming on. So they heard all the criticism about how bad the line was last year, and they've really tried to address it.
It looks like Mekhi Becton at the time of this recording is still a free agent.
Yep, they let him go for Tyron Smith. They basically traded him out. He just was disappointing the last 3 years,
That was an upgrade. Yeah.
for sure.
Well, the problem is when your offensive line is terrible and you have one star lineman, it's not enough. You can't. It's like trying to have a dam hold water back, but only part of the dam is really strong. it's
Hmm. That's right.
there's ways around it.
Very true. Any other comments here, guys, on offensive tackles?
No,
No, they might actually play a really big role, but it's hard to predict which ones.
Yeah. Well, anytime you can get a Tyron Smith, I mean,
Yeah.
you know that Aaron Rodgers was a huge pusher behind that. He's been pushing the
Yeah,
Jets to make some moves on
that's
the
right.
offensive line. Their line
Also,
was
they knew that held
porous.
them back last year.
Their line was totally porous last year. So, speaking of offensive lines, what about centers? There's some centers that made some moves here. The first one was Aaron Brewer to the Miami Dolphins. That was a big deal.
That was
The
huge.
Dolphins, 3 years, and the Dolphins feel like he's going to anchor that line for the next couple of years. They're very excited about him coming over from the Titans.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
So the Dolphins have got to be happy. Anytime you have a big center in the middle who can really hold his own, that's a big deal.
Well, if you get a veteran center who's got some leadership skills, it's a tremendous asset. It's in some ways it's
Exactly.
the most important lineman besides obviously the left tackle, but that center holds it all together. You saw how important Kelsey was to the Eagles.
Mm-hmm. And then Tyler Biadasz left the Cowboys, the hated Cowboys, for our Washington Commanders. Really happy about that. We took a big piece away from them, their center, and now we have a new center for our new quarterback coming in. We don't know who it's going to be yet, but whoever we end up drafting is going to need this guy to be his protector for the next couple of years. So really happy that happened. And then Lloyd Cushenberry, a really solid all-pro center from Denver Broncos, left and joined the Titans for 4 years, $50 million. So these are some of the big center moves that happened in the offseason so far.
They just kind of traded out.
But again, these teams that did get these guys, I mean, they're definitely improved just right off the bat. Any other thoughts on centers?
Nope.
Nope.
Good.
Moving on.
All right, let's talk about our guards. I'm very excited about that top one there. Unfortunately for the Miami Dolphins, but fortunately for my Carolina Panthers, they were able to get the best guard in the offseason. That's Robert Hunt. They paid him 5 years, $100 million. So they basically want him to finish out his career with Carolina. He is going to be the left guard to the left of the center for Bryce Young for the next couple of years, and he'll be kind of a real stalwart in that group. He'll have Ike Ekwonu to his left and our center to the right. So what are your thoughts about the Robert Hunt signing for Carolina?
I think he's good, but that's expensive. That's not, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, if he stays healthy, he can impact the line. That's good. And then all your starters from the last year that got sort of mauled a little, they can learn a little better as backups. And maybe you've upgraded quite a bit, but it's pretty expensive.
I think it was clear to the Panthers they had no chance for Bryce Young unless they did some major upgrades, and they did at almost every position on the line. They upgraded almost every position, and they had to. So, what do you guys think about Robert Hunt leaving the Dolphins and going to the Panthers?
I think it was a little bit of a bad trade, but mostly I think it was a pretty good trade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's good. The other one to talk about is the top guy there, Kevin Dotson. He's one of the more solid guards in the league, and he signed with the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
His current team, he's decided to stay in Los Angeles and got a pretty nice payday. So that was pretty cool to see. The other person that signed with the Panthers was Damian Lewis. He left Seattle, and he's going to be the right guard to Robert Hunt's left guard. So you kind of solidified all your interior line positions now for the Panthers. That's really great. Jonah Jackson also signed with the Rams. So the Rams are beefing up their line. The Panthers are beefing up their line. The Lions as well. A lot of these teams that want to try to run the ball, all getting big linemen up front. So interior defensive line, the biggest signing in the whole offseason, probably on any defense, was Chris Jones, who, in my opinion, might have been the MVP of the Super Bowl. And has been probably the best defensive player, at least in the AFC, for the last couple of years. Maybe Aaron Donald on the NFC side. They re-signed him for the biggest contract ever for an interior defensive lineman, 5 years, $158 million, and 2/3 of it is guaranteed. I just think that the Chiefs would have taken a huge step back if they didn't re-sign Chris Jones. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, the Chiefs have proven that they can put young guys around him and they can be effective.
He's just a game wrecker. He really is.
Yeah. What do you think, Brock? Chris Jones? That was a pretty good re-signing by the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think that was a good re-sign.
Yeah. They got to keep him no matter what. So, but that's expensive. That's going to hurt, Now you have to go young. You got to go young and cheap. And
I mean, I never thought I would see interior defensive linemen making these kind of dollars. I mean, look at this guy, Justin Madubuike for the Ravens, gets 4 years, $98 million. Christian Wilkins, you see there on the right. He signed with the Las Vegas Raiders. That's him at his introductory press conference. I bet he never thought he would get the kind of money he just got. 4 years, $110 million to try to impact the Raiders defensive line.
$27 million a year or something.
Leonard Williams re-signed by the Seattle Seahawks. Reeder signed with the Lions, and then a couple of other guys here. So, I think the interior defensive line is starting to take a little bit more precedence. People are realizing you can't just have edge rushers and be Swiss cheese to running backs. So it's interesting to see.
What else?
And then at cornerback, we've got L'Jarius Sneed, who was one of the top 2 tandems ever, as we saw in the Super Bowl. He was franchise tagged by the Chiefs, but then they now have let him go, and he's going to the Titans on a 1-year deal. I think it was $27 million 1-year deal, and then to fill in his spot, they're getting Xavier Howard from the Dolphins to be the backfill for L'Jarius Sneed. What did you guys thought about that?
What do you think, guys?
Mhm.
I think that's a downgrade for the Chiefs.
Me too.
Yeah, I think.
I don't think I've ever seen such tight coverage as we saw in the Super Bowl. It was incredible.
McDuffie and Snead were unreal.
Ayuk could not get open. Debo couldn't get open. It was really amazing to watch. So that's
Yeah.
definitely a downgrade. They have some young guys coming along apparently that they're excited about. So we'll see if any of them can develop into a Snead. But after they paid Chris Jones, I don't think they could afford everybody. So we
Yeah.
have a big signing here for the Dolphins. Kendall Fuller, really solid cornerback. 2 years, 16 million. They're hoping he'll lock down one side of the field. I'm excited
That's
about that.
pretty good.
Yep. And then you've got Jalen Johnson re-signed with the Bears, and then you have down at the very bottom Sean Murphy Bunting's a really solid cornerback that the Arizona Cardinals picked off for a big contract. So some movement at cornerback there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, they're all going to play really important roles on their teams. It's hard to say any of them jump out other than the Snead one, but obviously a lot has to do with need versus how far away you are and how your defense is constructed. So
No
that's a
doubt.
little complicated, but obviously
You
a
can
lot of
see
these players can play a big role.
you can see there's some good free agent cornerbacks still in the market too. So anybody who's really desperate for cornerback can go get one of these guys.
Mm.
All right, let's talk about edge defender. Josh Allen was franchise tagged by the Jaguars. He wanted a big, massive extension, and they wouldn't give it to him. So they're going to talk about it again next year. So he's back with the Jaguars. The big movement this year, of course, is they're up top. Very sad for those of us Carolina Panther fans. He got franchise tagged, and then he got traded to the Giants for his second-round pick when they had been offered 2 first-round picks a year earlier, which is just, to me, just malpractice that they were able to let him get out of the building for a second-round pick. That just made no sense. But what are your thoughts about the Carolina losing Brian Burns?
It was a disaster. I would have traded him a year ago for all those picks, but that's just a disaster. You can't lose that much talent without bringing in multiple players.
Yeah, and of course, it's one of the reasons why the GM got fired, among many reasons.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you get fired if you're a GM.
That's right.
Honestly, letting McCaffrey go for multiple picks wasn't a bad deal.
Although
you do that for the player's sake and for your own.
Although the contract Brian Burns wanted, I'm not sure that anybody really could stomach. I know the Panthers couldn't, even though they have a lot of cap room. He wanted $33 million over 4 years, so he wanted 130 something million, all guaranteed.
There's only a couple players I would pay that to, defensive linemen. Aaron Donald, a couple, but of course Aaron Donald's retiring, but not very many guys would I pay $33 million a year for.
Couple other transactions to mention here, guys. Danielle Hunter signed with the Houston Texans. You see him there on the left. He's going to be a big impact player for them. They already had a good defense, but he just makes them better. Bryce Huff with the Eagles, trying to shore up some of their defensive problems. Chase Young with the New Orleans Saints for a year. And then Jonathan Greenard with the Vikings. He's going to be a real solid edge defender for them.
Right. Cool.
Any other thoughts about this list?
Nope.
I was sad to see Andrew Van Ginkel go, but from the Dolphins.
I saw that.
We don't have the cap room to sign guys like that, unfortunately.
Well, let's still go Dolphins.
Yeah. We still got a nice team.
Still got Tyreek.
But we had to lose some salary and gain some youth, which I think we're going to do in the draft.
Really, linebacker is a place of need already. So they're going to almost have to draft 2 guys now.
Oh, for sure.
Linebacker position. Yeah.
At least 2.
Yeah.
What else you got, Tom?
Let's talk about the Dolphins. These are all the moves the Dolphins made in the offseason so far. Released some players. They signed Isaiah Mack, Davion Nixon, Jonnu Smith.
Excited about Jonnu Smith.
Yep.
Uh,
they got a new punter who is one of the better punters in the league. He was actually the third ranked punter last year, Jake Bailey.
Shaq Barrett, that's a good one.
Shaq Barrett. They got Jordan Brooks, who's a solid linebacker. That kind of fills the Van Kinkel hole. We talked about Aaron Brewer, who's a huge addition for their offensive line. They let Xavier Howard go. He's going to join the Chiefs. And then they Kendall Fuller we mentioned at corner.
I kind of like the sum total of all the parts they did, because they lost some really expensive contracts. They lost some guys that weren't very consequential, and they added some pieces that can start right away and add a contract that you can live with. All these guys are relatively affordable.
You can see that's what they did overall at every position. So like you lose Xavier Howard to the Chiefs, but Kendall Fuller comes in, who I'd say is just as good a player, and he came in much cheaper. So
he might be better actually, and he's cheaper. So that's good GM work right there.
Jonnu Smith, I think, was probably their best addition on top of Aaron Brewer. I think Aaron Brewer and Jonnu Smith are the two to really be excited about.
Yeah. I think Shaq Barrett's going to be a nice piece on the other side from Jalen Phillips.
And Shaq Barrett. Yep. I agree with that.
Yeah.
He's got some real speed outside.
Yeah.
Are you guys excited about the Dolphins season this year?
Yep, sure am.
Oh yeah.
Well, I hope they win.
Oh yeah, we're pulling for them hard.
Yeah, me too.
They got dolphin pillowcases on their beds.
Oh, they do good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes. No, we don't.
Yeah, you do. You put your head on it every night.
No, we don't.
All right, moving on.
All right, last slide is the Carolina Panthers, my team, and you can see we got rid of Bradley Bozeman, our starting center, but of course we filled in with a new signed center, which was a really good thing for us. We also lost Brian Burns. We released Hayden Hurst, so we're searching for a tight end now. Re-signed J.J. Hansen, Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis were the two big guard additions. So now we got one of the better offensive lines in the NFC. They got Ashawn Robinson for a really nice deal. Josie Jewell. Dante Johnson's going to be our number 2 receiver. We're really excited about him. He was very good for Pittsburgh last year. Emir Smith-Marset is the return man. He's a wide receiver, and he does punt and kickoff return, so he's a real speedy guy. Dane Jackson comes in to fill in for Dante Jackson, who left. So we got another corner, and then we got the Josh Nijman guy who's coming in at tackle. So definitely added a lot of depth on the offensive line. What are you guys' thoughts about some of the Panthers' moves here?
I think they were pretty smart.
Yeah, I like them. They got rid of a bunch of salary, and they put a bunch of decent players on the team.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they had done this last year instead of doing Bryce Young.
Me too.
And giving up all their draft picks, because if they had gone for one like a Will Levis or something, and then built up their lines like they're doing here, edge rushers and stuff like that, defensive lines and guards, and they're building their trenches, which is where you start building. You don't start building with a quarterback. And I think if they had done this last year, they'd be in really good shape this year. Mm-hmm. Instead, they're doing this year what they should have done last year. They're a good year behind where they should have been. But it's still, at some point, you do it and you get better from it. So I think they finally are doing a much better job of personnel.
No question.
It's okay.
No question about it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for running through that with me today. I thought it was really exciting to go through all the different transactions we had in the offseason. It's going to be a really exciting NFL draft that's coming up. We're going to do a whole episode on that.
Let's go.
We're pumped for the Dolphins. We're pumped for the Panthers. Hopefully they both got better. And I always love talking to you guys on our podcast, The Four Bros.
Yeah. And make sure to like and subscribe. And also comment on our video and say we are amazing. And we want to hit like 8 subscribers. At least 8 subscribers.
Smash that subscribe button.
Also,
follow our channels.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for saying that, Brock and Connor, because yeah, we want people to subscribe and like our videos and really enjoy our content. So
And
thank
send
you.
it on to
We
YouTube.
only have 1 subscriber, so we want to get 8.
Yep.
I want
let's do
more
it.
than 8. I want more
Let's
than
get 8.
Let's get at least 8.
Yeah, let's
And
get,
then-
let's get at least 10 or 8.
Let's go from 1 to 8, and then from 8 to 1,000.
No, no way.
We can do it.
I don't
No, we
think. Not if
can't.
we make more.
Our
we can make
channel's
more,
all
more, more,
listed.
We can make
Our
so
channel-
much that we're
No, it's
literally
not.
rich billionaires.
Okay.
Then we can go to we can get so much food
Okay, then
and
never
supplies and everything.
We can do it, Brock. We can do it, man.
Wait, where's
Oh.
All right, y'all.
All right. Let's sign off, guys. Let's. We had a great
the next-
episode.
The next step for this is the draft that's coming up.
Yep. We got the
And I
NFL
think that's
draft.
those pieces. Come on, sit up. Those pieces are really gonna hopefully fit together well for a lot of these teams. So
Yep. And then guess what kicks off next week, guys?
Huh.
Major
what
League
kicks off next
Baseball.
week?
Major League Baseball kicks off
Major
next week.
League Baseball.
yeah?
Nice.
I like talking
Let's
about
go.
Major League Baseball. So
Oh, yeah.
I like baseball.
LSU.
Looks like
gonna be
Otani's in a
fun.
little trouble. We'll talk about that next week.
Brock.
Yeah. Hey, don't say it too
All right.
early.
Signing off.
All right.
Four Bros.
So what episode is that? 3 or 4?
Bye, guys.